Hello friends, you're the Lonesome Gamer, and I'm still playing 7 Ages. And this will be probably the last turn, for some maybe the long anticipated last turn of the game, and therefore also last video. The reason is that Red is here at the very end of the progress track. He's in a dark age. These are the Japanese, by the way. And if for some reason he leaves that dark age into the fictional space number 50, the game ends at the end of that turn. Now the situation is that Red is about 11 points behind Gray. So it's actually not in his interest to end the game right now. But it's in Gray's interest. And Gray has the ability to push Red into the next space simply by losing a trade against Red. And that's what the Vietnamese player is going to try to do. Apart from that, I think the other players, they are completely far behind. The only chance that Red might have is that he somehow manages to draw some Wunderwaffe, some wonderful card, which... there is this card here, Glory pour moi. Play at the start of Harvest Glory, only the target empire earns glory. So a card like that would be a card that couldn't let him win the game. But I think there is only one of these cards in the game. So I don't see a way for Red to win. Because even if he manages to catch up 7 points, which he will do because of entering that space number 50, or of finishing the game, that would give him 7 additional points. But still, then we have a last Harvest Glory phase. And there, the Gray player, even though he has only 2 empires, he is simply stronger than the Red player, and in addition, the Gray player is ahead. So, I don't think it will be good enough to earn these 7 extra victory points. He needs some very, very special card. So that means we have to do some destiny action with one of these empires, and just hoping for that special card. Maybe even a civilized action to be able to play something, maybe also some catastrophe which really hits the Gray player hard. We're gonna find out. Let's see what we can do. Let's do the planning for this possibly last turn. Okay, so now after the planning is done, I realized it's not that simple. Because here's the thing. The Red player said, or the Japanese, we all know what's going to happen. The Vietnamese or the Gray player is going to do a trade action. He's going to let me win, and that game is over, and he has won. But he's now actually the last player in the turn order. So, if anybody else will do a trade action with me, I will do my best to let him win. And because it's only allowed that a country trades once per turn, the Japanese cannot be forced by the Gray player to trade if there was already another trade with the Japanese. So that's probably what we're going to see during this turn. Let's start now first with the English. The English are the first player. And we don't see any Start Empire action, but we're going to see a production action by the English. So, let's see what happens. Well, they will gain a bit of money. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's $10. 1, 2. That's 16. This thing doesn't count because there is disorder. But then we got that one here for 5, so that's 21. And then these 2 cities, so that's 25 income. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So it's overall an income of 12. And now the English, they're not going to spend that. They're going to keep their money. So they are now the wealthiest nation out there, and that's what they want to be. So that's pretty cool for these guys. Anybody else during doing a production action? The Arabs, actually. That's the red player. His hope is still to produce more units and then attacking some non-Islamic countries. And for each country or land area he wins, he will gain a glory point. So if he's doing good there, he could actually generate quite a few glory points in 1 or 2 turns. But first he needs more units, because now they're basically all scattered in his area. So he needs some kind of an army here. Okay, so he's got. And he is now in age 7. He's the Arabs are in this stack here. So that means now that these oil resource symbols, they count now as +4 income. Also this one. So let's see. And he also gets, I think, 1 for desert. That's special for the Arabs. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's see. First it's 1, 2, 3 for the desert. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14. So that's 17. Then we got Mesopotamia, which brings 5. So that's 22. And then we gain 4 more, that's 26. And 8, 34. Plus the 2 cities here. So that is 38. Well, that's quite a big income. That's enough to buy lots of units. Actually more than enough. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have that many units left in his counter, in his force pool. And if he does, only these crappy units. But, well, he can still leave the crappy units behind for garrison and attack then with the tanks, for example. Okay, actually I forgot to pay the maintenance for my units. So I ended up with 27 income, and that allowed me to buy all these troops here. So let's see where we can place those. Maybe here. And I don't know. I mean, we can also do it like this. These guys maybe here. That one here. This one here. Yeah, there we go. Maybe here the tank. Okay, fine. Great. Okay, we see another production action by the Italians. And they still have that problem that they have this direct confrontation with the French. And I guess there will be no peace because the Italians want to expand, they want to be a big Christian country, and they want to go to Africa. And the French, they want to be big in Europe and want to have colonies, and they focused also on Africa when it comes to their colonies. So there is this conflict, and the Italians will still try to work together with the Portuguese because they are controlled by the same player to crush the French somehow. Of course, the French are bigger, but I think maybe on the long run the Italians and the Portuguese might have an advantage here, but it's hard to tell. Okay, so these are 9 plus 6, that's a 15 then. And it's an interesting, I mean, we have this gold mine here, but for now I think I'm not gonna play that. It's too powerful. I want to hold on to a civilized action to play this gold mine. So that's 15. And I got to pay only 3 maintenance, so I will actually gain 12 bucks, which allows me once more to buy a few units. Okay, actually I decided to play this one, La Patrie en Danger. Play when target empire starts production, half cost of its new units. So I gotta count again now, but that will give me definitely an advantage here. Okay, I have a fairly decent army now here. Also with good units like these battleships here. So that is now definitely a threat for the French. Okay. So let's see who's producing next, if anybody will do it. Well, actually nobody is doing a production action. So we come to the trade and progress phase, and yeah, this is now the interesting step. The Germans, they will do a trade, and they want to do that trade with the Japanese. Hope I didn't make a mistake here. I'm not even sure if it's possible that they trade with the Japanese. Ugh. Well, that would be a pretty bad mistake. Okay, I realized it's not possible for the Germans to trade with the Japanese, so they're going to trade with someone else. It's not that bad, but it would have been nice, of course. So, who are they going to trade with then? Well, maybe the modern state. They have a trade modifier of 0. What about the Germans? Oh no, it's the same player. I can't do that. Shit. What about the Russians then? They also have a good trade bonus. The French, boy. Maybe that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna trade with the French. It's also the same player. Okay, so they're gonna trade with the Italians, whatever. It's a +1, and the Germans, they have a trade bonus of +2. So that's not so bad. So they're gonna give away this 5 card here, while the Italians, well, it would have been good for them to move on. They're also stuck in that dark age, basically together with the Germans. So I guess the Italians going to throw in this 6 card. And we're going to see then. The Germans draw first. Well, that's not that great. That's only a 3. So that's an 8. +2 is a 10. That's not bad. The Italians... That's better. That's a 5. So that's already an 11. +1 is a 12. Yeah, so that means the Italians have won that trade. And they can move now 2 spaces ahead onto that one. So this isn't bad at all, because now the Italians can build tanks, which could be useful when fighting the French. Okay. The Italians entered a new age, but there is no leader for them to die. Okay, then we have another trade and progress with the Russians. And they can now do this. They can now trade with the Japanese, and well, they have this really bad card here, that's 0. So that should be bad enough, I guess. On the other hand, wait a second, they want to win that trade, that's the point. They don't want to give away the gold mine, that's a sure, but they might say, okay, I'm playing this card here, that's 6. And the Japanese, they can play that 1, for example. So that should be good enough. I think there is nearly no way that the Japanese can lose that. Or actually can win that. Although they have a +2 trade modifier, the Russians have a +1 trade modifier. So we'll see about it. The Russians draw first. And that's enough. That's a 4. So a 10, 11. The Japanese, well, they end up with a 8. Okay. So that means now that the Russians will move on. So they could now move on up to 3 spaces, or even 4, because they have printing. But they don't want to do that. They only want to move on, well, basically 2 spaces. They don't want to risk to come into a similar position as the Japanese somehow get pushed over the edge then. But that gives them now the possibility to build these fighter planes here. And that's a good thing, I guess. Okay, so the United States, they do a trade action too. And they do have now this problem that they cannot trade again with the Japanese. So, what about the Portuguese? Well, maybe they want to trade with a more advanced empire. That could be a good idea. Who is more advanced? Wait a second, the Portuguese are blue, but they are not. Oh yeah, I think they are. They are here, exactly. So that means they have a trade modifier of +0, while the US has a trade modifier of +2. Yeah, but the big problem is actually that now the only thing the US can trade with is that 0 card. That would have been fine to lose the trade to push the Japanese over the edge, but it's going to be very hard to win any trade. So anyway, I guess they're going to play that card and try to trade with the Portuguese here. And for the Portuguese, it's not a bad thing. They say, hey, it's kind of cool. I kind of want to win that, but they don't want to throw in that gold mine. So, best they have is, well, I don't know. They can give away that 2 card here, which isn't that great, but okay. So that means that the US draws first. Oh boy, that's only a 2. So with their trade modifier of +2, I guess that's what they have. Yeah, that's a 4. And then the Portuguese, they have that's a 5. So that means the Portuguese, they win this trade. And they can then also move, well, up to 2 spaces. So they will also move here. Well, what else? I think we're done here with the trade actions. Let's go to the maneuver actions, and we'll see the French do a maneuver action. They're still trying to hold on to goals somehow, but the situation becomes more and more desperate here. Let me see. So they got, I think they're gonna take these troops here and move in there. I guess that's basically what's gonna happen. Yeah. I mean, there is of course a risk that I don't know, that the forces of the English, they might attack Burgundy, but they haven't done that until now. They don't actually have a reason to do so. But it's gonna get to the end of the game, and maybe they... But okay, I mean, it's gonna be hard anyway, so I guess we'll try to kind of build a stronghold here in goal, so that on the other hand we have these ships here. So I'm not sure if it would be possible for them to kind of move here through Gibraltar and then make an attack in that way on French. You gotta check that, because both sides of the coast are controlled by the French, so it is possible that there is a permission necessary to move through these areas. Let's see. Is there anything written here? The movement cost, that's a 7. Cannot cross sea area controlled by another empire. That's only if you move that way. I think if you move this way, it's fine. Yeah. Okay, so that means there is definitely some kind of problem for the French player now. So I guess what happens is... Oh, shit. It's not looking good. Okay. I think one unit is gonna stay here as a defensive unit for Paris. Okay, so that is then the end of the French maneuver action. Anybody else doing a maneuver? I'm not sure. Yeah, the Portuguese, they wanted to do a maneuver action too. Okay, so what do they want to do? Well, they could now attack goal again. And I think they want to do this. Yeah, I guess they're going to do this. They're going to attack goal, try to kill them. Or at least to weaken them. Yeah, why not? So, let's see, we move in there with these 3 units. They try to defend themselves. They kind of have an advantage. But, well, we'll see about that. Do we have any special cards here? I don't think so. Well, there is this overrun card. Play when an empire concludes a maneuver, it can immediately take another maneuver. We'll see about that. Okay, so for now, we will simply attack the French. We have a combat value, so these go into the front line of 14 and 8, so that's 22, and that is a 12 plus 7, so that's 19. Okay, so yeah, it is definitely an advantage for the Portuguese here. 22, and well, that's not bad. That's a 26. So that's probably enough. Yeah, definitely. So 26 against a 21. So what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a difference of 5, so there are no losses for the Portuguese. They are allowed to keep all their units. Oh gosh, that's now a pretty bad situation for French. And I guess now the Portuguese player is, the green player is actually playing overrun. Play when an empire concludes a maneuver, it can immediately take another maneuver. So we're going to see now an attack of the Portuguese on Paris. Only with 2 units, but at least something here. So let's see, we have, well, they have a -1 modifier because it's in the woods. But there is a +1 modifier, I think, for defense. Yeah. Okay, so what happens is we see a 15 against a 10 +1, 15 against 11. So it's looking bad for the French. The attacker draws first. Well, okay, that's an 18. Okay, against a 14. So again, no losses for the Portuguese, but the French capital is conquered and is reduced by 1. Okay, there we go. And it has become a neutral city. So the French are now without capital, which costs them, which is a big problem. Basically, they are probably ready to be discarded now. I think that's what we're going to see in the next turn. They couldn't simply withstand both powers, the Italians and the Portuguese here. These two leaders are killed, and well, the funny thing is actually that it doesn't really help the Portuguese a lot. Basically, they want to have colonies, but on the other hand, if the French get discarded, their colonies will be gone too, and then, of course, the Portuguese could expand somehow, probably not into Africa, because that would conflict with the interests of the Italians. On the other hand, it's going to be very hard for the Italians to become number one in Africa, so I'm not sure if that makes sense, if an attempt of the Italians to become number one there makes sense at all. So probably the Portuguese might go there anyway. But this is all in the future. I mean, for now, the French are still on the board. Okay, but let's see. Did the French have some money saved? I don't think so. Otherwise, half of that would go now to the Portuguese. And yes, we got $2 here. So the French lose all their money because their capital was captured. And the Portuguese will gain half of it. But in this case, this is only $1. Okay, so that was the maneuver action of the Portuguese, and the Vietnamese played a wild card. So honestly, I'm not sure what they want to do. They could do a maneuver action. Maybe that makes the most sense. But if they do so, they will lose a glory point. If they attack someone, the Japanese, an example, they will lose a glory point because they have democracy. So that's probably not the best idea. I'm not sure what to do here. Do I want to do a maneuver action, or do I want to try to do maybe a second destiny action? I've placed one already here. I could do a second one then. Try to find some really cool cards. Maybe try to trade myself with 2 turns to the end of the game. That's possibly the best I can do, I guess. So I think I'm gonna use that wild card for destiny action at the end. Okay. And that's what we're going to see now, the destiny actions. And we start here with the pink player. He only has 2 cards left, and he needs to find an empire he can start. And I wonder what to do. I think about... well, at least discarding that one. And we can draw then 5 others. Okay, the Hausa... not that great, but there is this card here, the World War, and that is a pretty crazy card because that will slow down the game quite a bit, which is kind of in the interest of the pink player. I mean, he's the last. Okay, you can ask yourself, does he really want to torture himself and slow this game even more down? But you know, if we say we want to all play together against the most strongest player, it might make sense to do that. So we might see actually a world war, maybe, which will change the game quite a bit then. Okay, then we have the Phoenicians. They suck. The Ethiopians, well, they could be played. They're not even that bad. I might actually start the Ethiopians. These guys are an option. The Chu, yeah, okay, forget about them. And one last card, the ancient Iranians. Yeah, probably not. Okay, so there is actually an interesting thing here. We see these United Nations. And these United Nations can be played to cancel the World War. Otherwise, the World War would go on, I think, more or less forever. I'm not sure, but I guess it would. Until someone plays the United Nations. But if he controls both cards, then we might see a long and bloody war. And this game could go on for quite a while, actually. Okay, anyway, let's see. The modern state. Yeah, he is in a pretty bad position. He might really consider being discarded. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to make any points. The Arabs are overwhelming strong. And the only thing that protects the modern state against simply being completely overrun by the Arabs is their Islamic faith, because it would cost the Arabs 3 glory points if they attack them and destroy them here. Okay, I think maybe we're gonna hold on to that card, and I think we're gonna throw away this one and draw 4 cards then. So these are the Koreans, and well, they might now actually be an option. If the Japanese go away, and that is probably what will happen. They are at least very, very weak, that's for sure. Then we could think about playing them. So the next card are the Plains Americans. They cannot be started now. The Latin Americans. Yeah, that's not possible because, isn't it? No, it isn't. The only power that has colonies in the Americans are the English, and basically you can only start Latin America in a land controlled by the French, Italian, Norman, Portuguese, Roman, Spanish, or Venetian. So that's not possible, but it's a good card to trade with. And one last card, the Incas. Well, obviously they cannot be played, but the silver mine is pretty powerful. Okay, now we see the red player doing a destiny action, and well, he wants to find that super powerful card which would kind of allow him to win that game instantly, but I don't think it's there somewhere. So, well, let's see what he wants to hold on to. Well, I think he will discard these cards. He wants to start the Ottomans in the next turn, I think that's for sure. So he draws now 5 new cards. Well, that's definitely not the wonder weapon. The pirate state. Also not that great. New world. Pretty useless. Well, the urban riots, they can at least be painful if played on the gray player. But until now we haven't seen a spectacular card. Maybe the last one? No. No way here. Okay, so yeah. These cards were all pretty bad actually. No good cards for trading. Nothing of interest here. Which is kind of bad for the Zimbabweans, because they make, of course, their points by trading. But Yeah, that was pretty bad here. And finally, we see the gray player also doing its destiny actions. So he now is actually looking for some high value cards which would allow him to trade himself somehow here into that finishing area. So let's see what we got here. Okay, that's definitely not great enough. Oh boy. These are really high valued cards. Twice A1. Now that's number 3. Well, this is a good one. Glorious Pity. What is that? The player controlling the target empire gets glory points equal to half the difference between them and the next highest player. Well, that would have been the card that the red player would have needed. So that's actually... It would have been possible, maybe. Okay, so what else do we have? The Huns. Well, at least they have a 5. And then we can draw one last card. The Aztecs, they also go with a 5. And that failed negotiation. Play when target empire starts trade in progress. It does not initiate any trading this turn. Okay, now this is also a pretty interesting card. Because, now the point is the following. If they try the same thing again with the Japanese in the next turn, and someone else would trade with them, he could say, no, that's a failed negotiation. Then that trade is broken, and he can do the trade instead. But obviously, and that's what we all were afraid of, the Japanese will get discarded in this turn. So, well, the situation isn't there anymore. He could now do another destiny action, and I think he will actually do so. I mean, he could also do a civilized action with the Vietnamese, but I don't think that makes too much sense. He also wants to find an empire he can start. So I guess what he's going to do instead is he's going to throw away, well, basically most of these cards here. Most of them are pretty crappy. Maybe hold on to that one and to the Egyptians and maybe to the failed negotiations, just in case the Japanese will not be discarded for any reason. Okay. Well, actually, that loyal mercenary is not bad. I think I'm going to keep that one too. Well, that would only allow me to draw. Shit. Okay, I'm going to discard these 2 cards. I need an empire, so I'm going to draw 4 cards now. The Swedes, well, they can be started. That's not bad. That's another world war, but obviously the gray player is absolutely not interested in this. Kanem Bornu, they cannot be started. And the last card is the Sinhalese. They cannot be started, obviously. Okay, we come now to the civilized phase, and here we're going to see the Free State do a civilized action. Here, that's the Kashmir state. And, well, they could now play a card. And, well, let me see where that Free State actually is. Is that them? It's sometimes no, that's the English. So the Free State is here. Okay. Okay, so now actually Kashmir is gonna start a World War. No, it's actually not Kashmir. Kashmir, they're going to play this card, the World War. And they're going to play it on... Well, let me see. Because it's a red artifact, it would give you a -1 modifier. So they're going to play it on the Vietnamese, I think. So it's the Vietnamese. They're going to start this war now. And looks just like this. Yeah. There we go. And that changes now a few things. So let's see. First of all, the Vietnamese will lose a glory point. Okay. Okay, so what happens? All empires taking a production action have the total cost of new units they build and can place any number of units in any area. Okay, the way I understand it is that you're not allowed to place any number of units anywhere on the board, but in an area you control. Otherwise it would be pretty crazy. At least that's the way I'm going to play it. All empires that take a maneuver action can move and resolve conflict again after resolving any conflicts from their first move. Units stacked with a strategic leader can move and resolve conflict a third time. Empires, that's now the interesting point. Empires can never advance more than one progress level when they win a trade and progress action. So that means now it's not going to be possible for the Vietnamese to trade themselves in 2 turns here to this, to that final goal, to that final space. And finally, empires do not advance a free progress level at the end of the turn, whether or not they are in a Dark Age space. So that can now go on for a really long time, as long as this World War is on the board. This, I mean, it's basically... The point is, and you will see that now, remove the World War artifact when any empire enters any age higher than the artifact or when United Nation is played. When the World War artifact is removed, every empire, except an empire that removed the artifact by entering a higher age, gains a glory point for each fertile area it controls. Okay. So... here's the thing. As long as, not by a strange coincidence, the grey player gets the United Nations, and the first card of these is actually now controlled by the pink player, and I think there are probably no more than 2 cards of it in the deck. So the chances are pretty low that this card will end up with the grey player. So that means that the grey player cannot control when this World War will end. So if he wants to finish this game, he has to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades. He has to win 7 trades with the Vietnamese to bring this game to an end. And this is going to be a long, long way. So as long as we have now this World War, I have a feeling this game is, again, well, kind of open. This might go on for 10 turns or something like that. So that's pretty crazy. I wonder if it's possible to play things like, I don't know, there are these things, strange artifact or something. There might be some weird cards that allow you to remove an artifact, But I think actually that most of the time artifacts are removed from empires by these cards. And this artifact is not on an empire, it's on the progress track. So I have a feeling it's barely impossible to remove this artifact in any way other than with the United Nations card. Okay, well. So if anybody hoped this game would be over pretty soon, you're wrong. Discard Empire. Well, actually we're not done yet. We're still doing the civilization action with the Free State. Do we have any bad cards? Any other bad cards? What about that one? Religious Strife. Gotta check that. Okay, so what the Free State is gonna do, he's playing that Religious Strife card. Another artifact on the Islam, on the Arabs. And that's a pretty big deal, because it allows you not to gain the advantages that the religion gives you. So the advantage here of Islam is you gain a glory point every time you attack another empire, or every time you conquer a land area from another empire. Now, as long as this Religious Strife card is in play, or if this, here we go. As this artifact is in play, we got that here. This bonus doesn't apply to the Arabs anymore. So how can they get rid of it? Well, there are basically two ways, I think. Oh no, wait a second, I cannot do that. The Arabs have a religious leader here. So they're very lucky that they have this guy, because that doesn't allow me then to play this on the Arabs. I'm not even sure if he's still there. Maybe he should have died when they entered that age, but they might also start it here. I'm not sure about that. Well, but whatever. I assume he was there. So I'm not allowed to play this on the Arabs. So let me see who else I might play it on. The Vietnamese. The French. Well, they probably won't be on the board for long anymore. Well, that Christian power. Okay, I think I don't know. I'm not sure. I could play it on the Russians, maybe. There's always I think I'm going to play it on the Russians. The Russians might, I've forgotten that most of the time. The Russians could, for example, do this. They could spread religious disorder in my areas. At least as long as I'm not Christian. And that could bring a lot of trouble for me. So I think I'm going to place this Religious Strife here, and in that way the Russians cannot do this anymore, and they lose a glory point. Well, how to get rid of this? There are not too many options, I think. One is a revolution in the country, or when the empire leaves its current age, which is very unlikely because the Russians, they are in age 7 now. Okay, now we can play, we can promote a leader for the Free State. And well, let's see what we find. They probably don't have any special guy? No, obviously not. And they can also have only one leader, so we only have one pick here. Well, that's not bad. That's a builder and an explorer. So, well, I think I want to place the builder here. Or maybe here. I'm not sure about that. Probably here. And well, what I can do then is, I can go on and I can adopt a religion or government. And I'm going to also adapt Islam, if it's still possible, if there is still an Islam marker. Yeah, there is. Islam is a strong religion, especially if you want to play aggressive. And that's something I want to do. So, well, Kashmir becomes Islam now. And that gives them a glory point. And we then might see some modernized actions, but I have my doubts here. Well, they have no, they don't have tanks. They are here. No, we don't see any special modernized actions then. So we're going to see the urbanized actions, and that's pretty cool. With the leader now, they can promote this into a level 5 city, and these two cities will also be promoted into level 5 cities then. Okay, that's basically it. We could remove disorder, which we won't do. Now we come to the discard empire phase, and indeed now the Japanese will be discarded by the red player. They were also one of the most successful empires. There is no doubt of the whole history. They had a very interesting story. I mean, they started with the yellow player, and then there was this, well, that kind of revolution. We had a new dynasty, and the red player took over. But now they were basically destroyed by the Vietnamese, and it's time for them to go away, actually. Okay, so, but that also means that this marker is removed, and that means that there is quite a way to the end of the game now. Okay, so because we have now the World War, that means empires will not move on the progress track anymore at this progress phase at the end of the turn. But of course we can still harvest glory. We have penalties for the Zimbabweans. I think not for the US, because they have Edison. But for the Free State, and also not for Germany, because they have Einstein. Okay, so we start with the English, the pink player. They gain a lot of bucks, a lot of glory points. So 1 for their homeland, 3 for the most colonies, 2 for the most money, and 2 for the biggest fleet. So they actually gain their maximum number of points, which is 4, 6, 8. That is impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But on the other hand, The Free State sucks. Oh, wait a second, that's not true. The Modern State is the bad one. I always mix them up. The Free State is not doing that bad. 2 points for the wheat. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, is that good enough to be the third biggest empire on the land? I don't think so. The Russians are definitely bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, no. No way here. Okay. So, 2 points for the Free State then. But there might be a little potential here. We see now the red player and, well, not the red, the yellow player. He's doing not very well. I think he starts losing now. He might actually lose very soon his third place, if it's interesting for anyone. And, well, that's 1 point. No, actually not. That's -1 for not controlling the home country. 2 points for the colonies. I'm not even sure about Europe anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. No points for Europe. And no. Okay, basically only 2 points for the colonies. -1, so only 1 point for French. That's bad. The Modern State, yeah, that sucks too. It's only 1 point for the homeland. And this is it. The Germans are doing a little better. 1 point for their homeland. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are actually second biggest in Europe. So that gives them then 2 points. So 3 points for the Germans. And now interesting, the red player. The Zimbabweans are in a dark age. So that means 3 points, but only 2 because they are still in age 6. The Arabs, 1 point for the homeland, 3 points for the biggest Islamic nation, so that's 4, and well, that's interesting. They might even be number 1 if it comes to the artifacts because of the turn order. I think they are. I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah. They have 2 artifacts. That makes them number 1. Yeah. Okay. So, hey, pretty good. 5 points for the Arabs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still, obviously the grey player is now doing much better. But we're going to see the Portuguese. 1 for the homeland, and that's basically it. So only 1 point for the Portuguese here, for the green player. The Russians are doing not so bad, I guess. 1, 3, 6 points for the Russians. No, wait a second, that's not true. I gotta count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so they are only third in Asia. So that means it's only 4 points for the Russians. And the Italians still gain only 1 point. And then we see the gray player, the United States. They are in a dark age, so that means that halves their points now. 2, 4, 6, and they are not the wealthiest country anymore. So that means they're number 2. So that's 8 points for them. Only 4 points. Still a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the Vietnamese, well, I assume 5 points as usual. Yes, that's 5 points for the Vietnamese. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So still ahead. And well, yeah. Okay, I'd say we've seen a really crazy turn. I thought it was the last one, but once more we've seen don't be sure what happens if you're playing games. You can never know. I mean, we have now a situation where everything is changed completely. Not so much here on the leaderboard. Gray is still ahead, is still doing fine, but it's going to be a long way for him to win this game, basically because of the World War. That slows the whole gaming process down so much. Trading is not that strong anymore. You can only advance one single step. So it will take a while for him to win this. And there is always a threat that he will actually be attacked by some other players now, because the units are much cheaper now. So we might see some really, really big fighting going on. This is all possible. I mean, it's kind of interesting, because now we have these... there are now also these aerial units that might come into play pretty soon, maybe even nukes. So I think it's not so bad that we can go on a little further, so that we can see this, well, modern area a little more. Okay, well, hope to see you in the next videos or on lonesomegamer.com. Bye. Okay, I made actually a mistake. Sorry, the light is gone, I know. The United States, they have Edison, and therefore they don't suffer the effects from a dark age, so they gain 1, 2, 3, 4 more points. And, well, we can see now Gray actually manages to get away a little bit. Okay, so bye.